Now we move on to see that missing now notices that the centers of these patterns are usually colored in, but they're colored in with a different color than the outside. And he notices there's a pattern there, and we want to see if we can determine the pattern of the number of squares that would be colored on the inside. So the next set of our chunking for lesson 1-2 is going to be questions 5 through 8. 5 through 8 would be our next section of chunking. And we're going to go about 10 minutes on this section for you to talk it over with your table mates. Pause the video, work on these 4 questions with your table mates, and see if y'all can come up to the pattern you notice on the inside squares, not the outside. All right, good luck. As you can see, the answers for questions 5 through 8 are now provided for us. If you can tell, I have highlighted the inner square, I highlighted it green, and then what I went back and I did was I divided it based on the square sets that were on the outside, the lines. And so we have one inner square here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 inner squares. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 inner squares. In question 6, it asked me to redraw those pictures from number 1. So I redrew the picture and then added the inner squares. I had 16 squares here. I had 25 squares here. Well, remember that this is figure 1. This is figure 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that this center is a perfect square, okay? This is 2 over, 2 down. This was 3 across, 3 down. This is 4 across, 4 down. 5 across, 5 down. So I kind of kept that in mind as I went to the next 6 and 7 whenever I copied my first 2 columns over from question 2. See, remember that was that previous table that we had started. So I went ahead and copied those over, and then I added this new column, which was the count of the inner squares. So I did the ones I knew that I could easily count, and remember that it was the number across times the number down, So here I did 6 and 6 would be 36, and then 7 and 7 would be 49. So that leads into question 8, because question 8 asked, describe any numerical patterns that you see in the table. Well, there's no need to point out column 2 because we've already talked about column 2 increasing by 4 each time. So I said, well, I noticed that the numbers in column 3, this column, the inner squares, was the first column, the figure number, squared. So that would have been 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5, 6 times 6, and 7 times 7. So I use that as my guide. And we're going to talk about how to write that as an expression here in a little bit. So on to your debriefing question for this section.